Hey, you're watching, excuse me, not listening, or you might be listening and watching the Waffle Press TV Hangouts. I am Diego Crespo, and with me I have my co-host, Mighty Sophia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty delightfully. And yourself?
Excited, sad, uh, good things, though. Because I just finished watching the season finale of Game of
You
Thrones.
did!
Yeah.
Oh, God.
This is the first time in history, since I started religiously watching the show, that I missed the finale. Like, I didn't watch it the night of, and that felt
Wow.
weird. That felt very odd to
Yeah.
me. And that is one of our big topics for today. That's pretty much our big single topic, but we're going to talk about two things really quick. We're starting that Netflix pick of the week again, and
Yes, sir.
you will go this week, and I'm curious if it's something I've seen or have not seen. And then next we'll talk about our thoughts on Hannibal, the last episode, which I forgot the name of, but I have it over here in my notes.
I think that one's Primavera.
Primavera. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone check out Emily's reviews on her channel. Links down below because she does that weekly. But for now, why don't you go ahead and surprise me with your Netflix pick of the week?
Sure. So I have to say that it feels a bit weird what I selected for my Netflix pick because I've only seen one episode of it so far, but I'm still going to present it to you and to the listeners / audience. So this, and I think that pretty much every single Netflix pick that I have done, or at least most of them, have been BBC shows because I don't know how to watch American TV anymore.
Or dark dramas.
Yes. And this is exactly in that same kind of category, but my Netflix pick of the week is Peaky Blinders. It's a Netflix original. And I had a few people recommend it to me, and there's just been an explosion of original Netflix series. And I'm like, where do I even begin? Because I've been so busy with shows that I'm actively watching and reviewing that it's like, it almost feels like I don't have time for new TV. I've got this TV. And for some reason, I find it a lot easier to like get into these BBC dramas for some reason. So another BBC drama, but I will give you all the deets. And now you've seen Boardwalk Empire, right?
Yes, and I am a huge fan of that. And I've heard of Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it besides, I think, Cillian Murphy's in it.
Yes.
And Tom Hardy.
Yes. Yeah, Tom Hardy. Now, he doesn't come in until the second season, but I didn't even know about that when I started this show, which just excites me all the more. So I'm just going to be making my way downtown, get to the Hardy. But yeah, so basically Peaky Blinders is based on the historical gang, which were called Peaky Blinders, based in Birmingham, England, late 19th, early 20th century. And the name is supposedly derived from the gang members like wearing the flat caps with the razor blades kind of stitched into the peak deal, although I think that was just kind of an urban legend of sorts. And when you look into kind of the history of it, there's not really an agreement as to whether the Peaky Blinders were one cohesive kind of gang or if they were just sort of like the violent subculture of the time. But the show Peaky Blinders has decided that, yes, they were a cohesive gang and kind of a family unit, almost Godfather style. So it's post-World War I, Birmingham, England, specifically in this place called Small Heath. And I'm pretty sure that this takes place around the same time that Boardwalk Empire is, from what I understand. And that's another show I've been interested in, but haven't gotten the time to see. That was like Prohibition era, kind of?
Yeah, Prohibition.
Yeah. So that's pretty much
the end.
Yeah. Yeah, exact same general time period, except we're kind of dealing with the aftermath of the war here. Kicks off in 1999, and it's got Cillian Murphy, who, is known for his cheekbones and Nolan films, stuff like that. He was Scarecrow in Batman Begins. So he plays Tommy Shelby, who pretty much leads the gangster clan in their illegal betting operations and other stuff, generally frowned upon by the law. Everything's going good and great because they've paid the cops to look the other way. They seem to be doing well with their bookie operations and stuff like that. But Shelby is a little bit more ambitious. He wants to kind of push past making the books and maybe, kind of make something more of a little crime kingdom in their sort of industrial working class underworld thing. But not exactly helping things is the fact that he goes for this attempted motorcycle robbery, and then that accidentally turns into a theft of this heavy military grade weaponry that was supposed to go to Libya. And so now he's got the attention of Winston Churchill and this guy named Inspector Chester Campbell, who's kind of like Jim Gordon status. I'm going to clean up the city and yada yada. He's a bit rigid of a character, but I think that's just because they're really trying to get the exposition going and they're focusing more on Killian's character. But so this guy is like, oh, I'm going to get those Peaky Blinders, blah, 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 and try and give them a run for their money and power. And so the Blinders family also includes this lady named Aunt Polly, who I really dig because the actress, I think, Helen McCrory, she looks kind of like a European Sigourney Weaver, which makes me really happy.
I'm all about that. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I'll take Sigourney Weaver anytime, any day, anywhere.
Yeah, any shape or form.
Yes, exactly. So she was pretty much the head of operations while the boys were fighting in World War I, and she's right in the pocket with Shelby. Like she knows that he's up to something and he's trying to push the gambit, blah, blah, blah. She strikes me as a really cool character so far. And then Shelby's older brother is kind of heading up the gang organization. He's the face of things, but it becomes quickly apparent that Shelby's really sort of the rule breaker and the rule maker. And what he basically does is he takes things that others might see as liabilities and he capitalizes on that and he turns them into opportunities. He's kind of that sort. And so, we get all these, like, there's communist supporters and there's like operatives of the Irish Republican Army who are pretty much against the British Empire because they're messing with their shenanigans in Civil War. I took a World War I class, so I
so this is a perfect show for you.
Yes. It's very exciting for me, the fact that I took, months of this class on one of the more obscure World War, I guess. But yeah, so it's the pros of the show so far. Again, I've only seen the premiere, so I don't really feel like it's fair to be like, well, I see all these things, because this is just what I'm getting from the premiere. But it really embodies that the kind of cinematic beauty and the visual detail of like every single BBC drama that I've delved into in the past year. They are so pretty, and they know what they're doing when it comes to their cinematography.
They really do. It's like they put our shows to shame, a lot of them, I mean, besides Game of Thrones, Hannibal, the occasional AMC show, some other stuff sprinkled in there, but I just can't remember off the top of my head. A lot of TV shows, there's a TV look to it,
Yeah,
and
totally.
They don't feel cinematic.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that so far Peaky Blinders has that quintessentially gorgeous feel. And I mean, they do a really good job of conjuring up a very visceral and kind of tangible atmosphere that's super stylish, but also really realistic. You're seeing a lot of the working class and poor and like swerving through alleyways in the snow. And so there's this kind of light, dark dichotomy thing going on a lot of the time. Murphy is definitely a great choice for the main character. I mean, he does such a good job with all these kinds of psychopathic roles, and I don't really know what his character is all about yet, but that's kind of the charm of it, is that you're trying to figure him out, and I think that's going to be kind of a common theme of the show. Also interesting is the soundtrack that kind of caught my attention, because it's got all these bluesy songs from like the White Stripes and Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, and it's like, wait, what? But however, when you compare that to stuff like the shenanigans of the Great Gatsby movie, which had like Jay-Z and Beyonce and Florence and the Machine, and that being said, and the story being set in the 1920s, it doesn't feel quite that jarring. It's just like they're sort of trying to play at the like, yeah, look at all these badass dudes looking all dapper and such, like, yeah. So it feels a little bit theatrical at times, but that they're setting the stage for things. And I know that with a lot of BBC dramas, they kind of do that. Like, make it a little bit more melodramatic here or there, but they do such a good job of inviting you into this world of sorts. And so, yeah, that's really all I can say so far without going too much further into spoilers, which I don't even know enough spoilers to ruin it for you. But I'm excited that Tom Hardy is a thing that's going to be in this. And I hope that the show is good enough to warrant my continuing into the next season. But I'll end by saying that the show has its work cut out for it in terms of like getting us to really care about these characters, because you have a lot of those sort of cliches from early 20th century media, just the things that you would expect you do get.
No, okay.
But it's it's all a premiere, and they're like I said, setting the stage. So what's going to make me continue to watch the show and not be like, oh, this is cool and pretty and so old school, is like make it really get us into the heads and hearts and fists of the characters, like make us care about what's going on and establish an identity that solely belongs to the show and not just to the era, which is pretty much something that I think needs to come with every period piece. Is like, okay, great. You can give people what they want. Like they want this history, they want this culture, they want everyone to have these accents and to dress this way. And like, oh, it's so nostalgic or whatever, but, which I mean, I am like guilty as charged. I eat that shit right up. And I know the cliches that I enjoy and that I will take. But I hope that the show continues to like differentiate itself and become its own thing and not just another product of this era that we've all kind of romanticized a lot. But yeah, so that's kind of my impression so far, and I'll let you know more about it as I get further into it. But I really want to start iZombie.
Yes, so that is definitely start iZombie.
Yeah, that's the one I've decided I'm going to do first from your recommendations. So
yes, all right, then hopefully we talk about it on the show as it progresses or as you finish. But yeah, Peaky Blinders really quick before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good note that just from the premiere, you've already decided to recommend it. I think that's, that's a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was something where it's like, I can't really speak to what's going to happen, and who knows if I'm going to keep watching it. All I know is that it caught my attention, and I can see the things that they're kind of setting up enough to where it's like, this is maybe something other people should see,
Mm-hmm.
Especially as we're all trying to figure out what to do with all these new Netflix shows. Like, what's worth it? Are they all just so amazing because we can watch them all at once? Like how do we get to the true quality stuff when it comes to instant streaming now that it's all at our fingertips? So I'm hoping that this is good. I'm hoping that this is a good recommendation, but I like it so far. So
we'll have to come back to you once you finish it, just to see how you thought about the whole thing.
For sure.
Yeah, Netflix shows. I need to watch Orange Is the New Black. I've watched the first two seasons. I need to watch the third one. But that's a topic for another time, because I'm a big fan of that one. But we are also big fans of Hannibal. And let's just talk about that quick little episode again, Primavera.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have is Will Graham and Abigail Hobbs going through, I believe it's Florence, Italy.
Where were I think it was Palermo. Not that it super matters. It's Italy.
It's Italy at some place.
We're Americans. What do we know? Italy is Italy.
I'm from LA. I just was at the beach, bro.
Yeah.
Tanning and stuff. But yeah, well, it's a slower episode, but I didn't mind it. It was more ambient noise than usual, but it's not like just to waste time. I don't think Hannibal always does this thing where it uses everything at its disposal to help inform on the characters and their stories and their struggles. Here, I was hoping to see more of who else survived the brutal massacre.
Yeah, they're taking their sweet time.
Yeah, they are, and it kind of sucks, but I mean in a good way. Like they have me on the edge of my seat with that.
Yeah,
you get some really freaky, disturbing imagery with the heart that Hannibal left for Will and Abigail to find, before we find out that, again, spoilers, that Abigail is indeed dead. She's gone officially now, and that's a huge bummer because I really like that character. But I guess someone had to die. It does make the most sense for her because she's not a main cast billing member.
Yeah.
Before we get more into it, what are your thoughts on the episode as a whole?
It was definitely one of the more disturbing episodes that we've seen in the show so far, I feel. And this is kind of some stuff that I had touched on in my review, and it still rings true. Like, again, the broken heart thing, that was just on a whole nother level of not okay.
Oh,
that
God, no.
We need to expect this, but you can't at the same time. Because who are we to want our minds to go there and be like, you know what I bet they're going to do? Like, no, we don't want to deal with that. And so I saw something that Brian Fuller was tweeting, because he does like live tweeting rounds for pretty much all the coasts, all the different air times. And I knew that there was going to be some weird, freaky sort of variation on the stag creature and oh man, that was gross. That was gross.
I just know some kid was like flipping through the channels on Thursday night, and they're like just watching TV, and then he or she sees that, and they're just ruined for life. Like they need therapy.
Yeah,
he just ruined some kid's life. I know it.
And so it was a really upsetting episode in that way. And kind of the way I see it is this is the sort of episode that I think separates maybe the diehard fans from the people who are more on the fringe, people that want the linear narrative and are asking all kind of the basic questions. Because if you're still stuck in that zone and you don't like the surreal elements, then this probably completely lost you and maybe has you questioning whether or not you want to continue on in this direction.
Yeah, that's totally true. It's so abstract.
Yeah, it was really tough to know what was going on, mostly because we were really seated in the mind of Will Graham, which was keeping Abigail alive. And so there was that whole, it was very mean of Brian Fuller to dangle Abigail before us and, to have them having all these interesting conversations and adventures in Italy trying to find Hannibal. And then, well, it's just the two of us in the tombs running around. But so I definitely think that this is a very different kind of episode, and that now we're going to see Will Graham finding what's her name? Lady starts with an M or an S or a consonant of some kind, but I think
Delia? No,
it was
Delia. I lost it.
Yeah, no. But I know that he's going to start finding other people that have known Hannibal from his past and kind of, the cat and mouse thing that's going on. So this was really just kind of showing us, I think, how far Will Graham has come, and where now he's at this point where light or dark, good or bad, he's just pursuing this. It's kind of what Abigail was telling him, like, everything that can happen will happen. Just go. just go. Just do. Find Hannibal. Who knows what's going to happen? Who cares? Just do it. Just do it.
And so much was done this episode, like not in the real world, but in the twisted, surreal mind of Hannibal and Will, and their weird connection that's almost sexual, but maybe could be perceived that way, but almost isn't. But it's just so many things and so disturbing at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm still not getting over the imagery of the stag. Like when I was just watching it, I was like, oh boy. Oh, okay. Oh my God. Like I couldn't shut up. I was just like,
oh gosh. Oh no.
I sounded like Bob from Bob's Burgers, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. it was, I couldn't believe what was happening. And the fact that this episode, like, I think this episode in another show would have just been so dull. They would have just had a couple scenes with Will looking around for Abigail. They might not have even done the Abigail is a dead thing. I think they would have showed their cards too early with the other characters. I think they would have just shown too much, like literally. And something like Hannibal doesn't work like that, and that's why the show is so great. It twists expectations, but it also doesn't just do it for twists. It's like, no, we're going to explore these different facets of the psychology of these characters and I really like the introduction of the Inspector Pazzi, I believe it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Uh, if I remember, he is also in the books and the Ridley Scott
Mm-hmm.
Hannibal, and
Yeah.
he's his story gets interesting. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. Um,
Yeah. And we
I
also had to relive, of course, the
oh
events
god,
from the end of the last season all over again, just for kicks.
pretty
Just
much.
to
I mean,
really.
it's painful. It was painful to watch. So I was like, maybe I missed something. One of them's gonna be okay. Maybe they're gonna show something different this time. But no,
Nope.
I was wrong.
Nope. They showed little teacup Will breaking into a million pieces. That was
Yeah.
such a funny scene where they show the actual like breaking of the teacup because one of the shards has Will's face on it. And that just made me laugh so hard. I'm like, I feel like this is like Alice in Wonderland, the cannibal edition, where we are
You know
just
what? You're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong.
whoa. I never really thought about that, but I mean he's going further down the Hannibal hole.
Oh god. Maybe that sexual thing is literal.
I
But
believe it. I
yeah,
believe
those
it.
are our thoughts on Hannibal. Very positive, as you can tell. Maybe a little too dirty, but maybe not. I don't know. This show does things that I've never seen before.
Who
Yeah, no, the
knows?
rest of this episode is going to be dedicated to chit-chatting a little bit about Game of Thrones season 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's all spoilers. Everything positive, negative. Really quick rundown for me. I just tweeted out my quick thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of really great stuff in here that elevates the show to the next level. Like it's taken
Yeah.
TV to places it's never gone before. The episode Hard Home in particular is just like that was the most metal thing I've ever seen in a TV show. You know, and then there's lots of other stuff too that I wasn't crazy about.
Yep.
Mostly positive though. Mostly.
Mm-hmm.
But what about your thoughts?
So with the overall season?
Overall season.
Yeah. I like I have so many different thoughts and feelings about what transpired. I don't think that this was my favorite season. I still kind of feel like maybe season 4 is kind of still kind of on the top for me.
Yeah, I'm on that boat.
Yeah. And like you said, there was a lot that happened in the season that really pushed things to the next level and raised the stakes. Like you said, with Hard Home, just kind of like almost obliterated our view of kind of the old world of the show, beyond the political intrigue, beyond the things that we thought we loved and relished and hated and were terrified of. This just like completely blows that out of the water. I mean, the scope of Hard Home, of course, was huge and prolific, and I think it really shook the fan community to get to see that, and puts a lot of things in perspective too when you're looking at what's going on at all the different parts of the world. Nobody sees this imminent death that is breeding more death and coming straight for everything and everyone, and that just kind of just shattered my mind a little bit, because you still feel what's going on in Marine and King's Landing and all these places, but you look at that struggle where things become life or death, and it's crazy ironic to see just how far away the rest of the world is from that, and how nobody truly understands, as like Jon Snow did in that moment. They're sailing away and he sees the White Walker just kind of like,
Yeah, he's like, come at me, bro. Yeah. Like,
what you want? What you got?
yeah, that was pretty much the episode.
I take your dead and I make them my living. So, haha. Yeah, but that was still so incredible, really groundbreaking, and just phenomenal to see done in a battle of that scope on television. And I know that there was the battle last season at the Wall that was super huge too, and really well received, played in IMAX theaters, because why the crap not? But yeah, so that was definitely a high moment. Other things not quite so high, and that I'm wondering why were included in this season. There was some like some story arcs I feel could have been even boiled down to like a single episode. I know that the way of Game of Thrones is typically weaving things together, but stuff in Dorne kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah, entirely, or mostly entirely. I think it picks up towards the end for me, at least.
Right.
They had the worst fight scene I've seen in TV in a long time. It was so bad.
That was a huge letdown.
I couldn't believe it was that bad. Like, it was original Star Trek series bad. I stole that from a friend of mine. But yeah, that's a perfect example of what that was like.
Yeah.
I was like, when Kirk fights that lizard, like the infamous fake worst fight scene of all time. It was like that. But Game of Thrones, a show that is known for its high quality TV. Like, how did that happen? I mean, I guess they saved their budget for Hardhome, but I don't know.
That was still so strange. It's like, why even go there if it's going to be so short-lived and brief and weird? It lasted like 2 minutes and then everybody goes to jail, and it definitely, things in Dorne really sagged in the middle, picked up at the very end.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so the big moments of the show were big and just like grabbed my soul. I mean, everything from Hardhome to Marine and Dany's reunion with her dragon, and great big crazy cataclysmic moments, and then other things that were just why.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could talk about it really quick then. Yeah, Sansa's rape scene that admittedly didn't show a lot, but they showed enough, and the way it was filmed was terrifying, as it should be. But why?
I know, because now, like, especially having seen where the season went with it, it's like, we didn't need to see that to understand how shitty things were for her. It didn't
not at all
seem necessary, ultimately.
Yeah, and nothing came from it. I mean, some people have said, oh, hang on, like, see how it plays out. And you and I talked about it, like, let's wait till the end of the season, give them the benefit of the doubt, even though they've never handled rape storylines well in this show at all.
No.
Maybe Dany and Khal Drogo's thing, because that actually led to everything.
Yeah.
Because that was because of their marriage. But yeah, no, this was just for shock value. And there were a couple moments for shock value, I believe, that just didn't. This is the biggest gross moment. Like, I felt ill afterwards. It's just a TV show, but at the same time, it's like, you have to question why they would do that.
Yeah.
And there's no answer besides, wouldn't it be shocking if Sansa got raped as soon as she got there?
Yeah.
And then some people have tried to defend it by saying, well, the character is a violent rapist, murderer. Like, you want him to act out of character. It's like, no, I just don't think this situation should have happened. You know, I think there's a better way to go about Sansa being, like, more tortured, essentially.
Yeah.
It's an icky feeling thing, and not in the way that they intended. It's just, why did you do that? And not in the context of the show, but in the writer's room. Yeah, big ol' mess of a story that I mean, the rest of the story I actually quite like. It's just that it's just it's a stain on what is a pretty good story arc, I think. It still sits ill with me.
Yeah, I felt sick when I watched that, and like you said, they didn't really show anything, but it was like they lingered just long enough.
Yeah.
Just long enough. It's like, I don't care that, you know, they have the camera just zooming in on Reek's face, like showing his horror at the scene. Like, it's the sound of it. It's that, like, we are being forced to kind of experience what he is experiencing. And it's like, how is that just fair to anyone on any level? And of course, we knew that Sansa being in Winterfell in the presence of Ramsay Snow was not going to be good business, but still the fact that they felt the need to depict that at all was just horrifying. A character that we love and care about, seeing them violated in such a heinous way is really difficult, if not inexcusable. Like, I'm very much with you in that I'm throwing my hands up and saying, why? nobody wanted this. Nobody was like, well, in order to see what Sansa's really going through, we need to see her get raped by that dude. Nobody was asking for that. And if they are, go away. Nobody wants you. Nobody likes you. Just, yeah, like in general, just with this season, the violence against women stuff was so very no.
Yeah, it seemed
No.
more extreme, and it's that stuff was entirely a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that kind of opened up a door of messiness for me to the show more, where I was like,
Yeah.
and A Hard Home actually did it too, but because that episode was so good, it kind of makes you
Mhm.
question everything. Like, what does this all mean then? What's the purpose of all of this? You know?
Yeah.
And I think the finale nails being a finale for answering that question, sort of.
Mhm.
It's this season was about pretty much loss. Everyone loses something. Everyone's in a totally different position from when they were,
Yeah.
except for the Boltons. I
Mhm.
think they're the only characters who are just in the same spot.
Yep.
Um, yeah, Cersei's lost everything.
Yeah.
Daenerys has lost everything. She's lost her kingdom
Mhm.
over there.
Yeah.
She's around with her dragon now, surrounded by a Dothraki horde.
Mhm.
Tyrion gained some stuff, a little bit, but the major leaders have all lost everything. I think. Oh, there you go. That's the other thing I want to talk about. Stannis.
Yeah.
I did like where he ended up. I did not like that, or I don't believe that he would give the order to burn his daughter.
Yeah, like nothing
I
that
don't know how I felt
happened
about that.
earlier on in the season seemed to lead up to that. Because, I mean, they had that scene earlier on where it's like, you are my daughter, you are my princess. Like, I fought for you. I could have sent you away to this island to die. I fought for you, and you're here for a reason and all this stuff. And then it all comes to nothing in such a ridiculously awful way. I mean,
Yeah,
what happened to Stannis, I think, was certainly mitigated by the fact that I was pissed off at him for allowing that to happen to his daughter. And I was like, you know what? This is not going to pan out for you, buddy. Like, maybe it's going to melt the snow a little bit. And then, half of his men abandon him, and his wife is found dead, and he charges into battle without enough manpower or readiness in any way, and it all just kind of like nosedives into the ground, and I didn't really feel bad.
I sort of did, because I think like after he killed Renly or caused Renly's death,
Yeah.
and then he loses at Blackwater, where he shows like regret, and then Melisandre is like, "Oh no, look in the flames, everything will be okay."
Yeah.
And then here it happens again, except she's not there to make sure he's okay. He's like, "Shit," you know.
Yeah, that's
no.
true.
I think Brienne and him and Pod are going to team up with Reek and Sansa.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, something's going to happen there. I think that's too perfect of a situation not for them not to meet up. Like
Right.
Daenerys and Tyrion meeting up and having that whole little group of episodes together. Because in the books, that didn't happen, and there was a huge disappointment that they didn't meet up. And now it's like,
right.
Oh my god, this material is so good. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so much to talk about. And then John's death is yeah, I knew it was coming, and I didn't watch the episode live, but I did see people tweeting, and I was like, oh, so they totally did it. They totally, wow. And that's a hell of a cliffhanger, because I don't even know what happens next now. The books are donezo, or not donezo, but
very close.
Yeah, this is uncharted territory for everyone now, and that's exciting.
Yeah, yeah. It was funny talking to my brother after watching the episode, because I was like, when I was about to tell him that Jon Snow died, I prefaced it by saying, I don't think this probably happened in the books. I don't think, like, for some reason I was so convinced that the show was just trying to drive the knife in further, because I heard something about how, characters that lived in the books died in the show and all this stuff, and so I told him everything. He's like, yep, sounds right. So I was very surprised, but it is cool that we're all kind of on the brink of the unknown, and I hope that will maybe silence all the bickering that's been going on in the fan community for years and just let's all be together in this, whatever's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's a good note to have.
Yeah. So I'm excited and I'm shaken up, and there's so many theories that are flying around now, of course, with like now that Melisandre is back at Castle Black, there's all this talk of her resurrecting Jon Snow with her, and I mean,
I hope so.
That
would
be pretty cool. Happen. That'd be pretty cool. And I know that they had some moments earlier on in the season that led me to think, there's something more there, that she's kind of pursuing in him. And of course, she just lost Stannis and everything, and all these visions that she was having. What were they all coming to? Because she can be very manipulative and whatever, but I don't think she's just a liar. She can only see what the Lord of the Light allows her to see, maybe, but it just seems like there is something there. So I'm kind of down to entertain that theory.
Yeah, me too. Really quick, I do want to read off some tweets that we got.
Yeah.
All right, so at J Withy, it says, I asked for people's thoughts on this season of Game of Thrones. He says it was pure Game of Thrones. Besides episodes 5 to 7, it was great. Mostly agree with him, because that was a little slump where things were like, what are you doing, show? Why are you doing that? At A_B_Allen says solid, though relatively unremarkable for first 2/3. Nails it from hard home on. At the Ryan McLean says strong setup in the first half, but aside from the wall, every piece of payoff was weak, lazy, and disappointing. Also, weakest pace of the seasons with long stretches of nothing compelling. The Essos stuff was all bad. I disagree. Even though I think Arya's stuff was surprisingly weak as it went on.
Yeah, I was expecting more from that too, actually. That was another thing that kind of didn't really deliver for me, because it was all kind of strewn throughout the season rather than kind of focusing on what was going on. It was just like, oh, look, we're back in this cathedral place again. And obscure, mysterious things are happening. Woo. And so finally the last episode, I think, made up for that in a really big, kind of crazy way. And we don't know what's going to happen with Arya now, but it's like, I feel like that should either have been dealt with in a more constrained amount of time, like a more focused story, or maybe even, I don't know. I think they just should have had it more focused.
I guess that's what the season needed, even though I did love the season finale and Hard Home a lot. Like, I think Hard Home might be my favorite episode of the show in general, and I think this is the best finale they've had. Even mixed with all the great material of the season, there's a lot of like, well, this could be handled a lot better, and just good in general. Yeah, this season needed more focus. Even though they kind of nailed the landing, it's too long. The pacing and character arc stuff, it didn't work as cohesively as it used to. So maybe now that they got books 4 and 5 out of the way, they'll kind of get ready for the big 2 finales.
Yeah.
And I don't think the show should last more than 7 seasons. Especially after this season. Not bad.
Yeah.
But there was bad in it. And if you can't keep up the quality, maybe it's time to start preparing for the big ending.
Yeah, I definitely feel like 7 seasons would be solid for this show. Like, somebody was asking me how long I thought it would go, and I was like, I'm going to say 2 more seasons, because how much, what they kind of showed us the beginning of the end in this season, and I feel like it would be doing a disservice to us to simply draw things out further, even though they have a lot of material that they can explore now with everybody being in these very desperate places. So next season is going to be a very formative time. There's going to be a lot for them to do, and I think that this could be their opportunity to shine in ways that things didn't quite as much for the overall season. Again, some huge just pillar moments that shook the heavens and earth, but can we spread that out more for the rest?
you got 2 more tweets because one of them actually kind of addresses the major problem I have.
Yeah.
At SCC Movies says, for the 3rd time throughout the course of the show, I locked myself in my room and went silent. So yeah. Okay, so he's more positive. And then at the Equiatic_bind says, too grim, harrowing, needed something hopeful amidst the unrelenting bleakness. And that's my thing
Tyrion.
now too. Yeah.
Tyrion is like, he's running things now on the other side of the world, which I think is pretty cool.
Yes, Tyrion. And I do like the glimmer of hope that Reek redeems himself and then helps Sansa escape.
Yes, finally.
It felt even longer in the books. It's a different situation, but his redemptive thing, it's like, oh my god. Now, thank God, finally. It's like, okay, if that was paced better-ish, still not perfect.
Yeah.
Again, good ending. But yeah, I feel that it makes me question, what's the point of all of this? Like, it feels like there is no point. And if the end point is that there is no point and that just people suck, that's hard to pull off. But I feel that they could, after this, where I was like, I wasn't sure they were going to be able to do a good finale, I feel more comfortable if they can pull it off at the end. I'm just worried that the road there is going to be a little more bumpy than I expected.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's distinctly possible. But I have a lot of hope for the next season, especially now that it's like it's unprecedented territory and they have everyone positioned in such crazy different places. Now is the time to really ramp things up, which they started doing this season. But I thought it was going to be bigger overall, and it was more like punctuated with these huge exclamation point moments like, oh, okay. So I want that to translate into really good, crazy things next season. I think they can do it if they believe and try and really think about everything.
and maybe don't use rape like that. I don't know, just a thought, since every year you use it worse and worse.
Yeah.
Don't do that anymore, guys.
Like going from, oh, we didn't mean that to be rape, to, oh, here it is.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. It's like they heard our complaints and like, no, we can do it better.
Yeah,
it's
we'll do it intentionally this time. We don't
want
it. Oh man.
Yeah.
But I am very excited for Sansa and for Tyrion especially. Tyrion is like, he's kind of my last hope for some reason. And I love with the last episode, he and Varys get to meet up again and kind of assess what happened. That was a pretty beautiful little moment.
That was.
It's interesting to see how with all these people that are suffering and losing, he's finally starting to gain something. And this season has seen him come into a really cool place. Whereas for a lot of people, they have been driven down into the dirt. He's finally on the rise because he's separated from his family, who's essentially tried to, put him in the ground too. So he's now in a place where he can help Dany, or I don't know when they're going to see each other again, but maybe break the wheel at long last, whatever that's going to mean. But yeah, so I think we're set up for some really big things that I hope are going to be done better as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. All right, those are our thoughts on Game of Thrones, Hannibal, and Emily's Netflix recommendation of the week. I'll be back next week with my Netflix recommendation. Hint, they didn't take it off of Netflix like I thought they were. So positive things. Yeah, that mostly positive Game of Thrones season review. Very positive Hannibal. Emily, why don't you let people know where they can find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Mighty Sophia. That's EM, the word mighty, SOFIA, which is also my public Facebook and Twitter handle. So yeah, those are kind of my main platforms.
All right, great. And you can find me at the Waffle Press, audienceeverywhere.net, at We Talk Movies. Links to the rest of them down below. There's kind of a lot now. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We have been professionally unprofessional.